Jimmy Butler in the 2023 season was weird. In the regular season, he was solid, but in the playoffs, he was otherworldly. He embarrassed the Bucks.
Butler! Long shot! Good!
He dismantled the Knicks. He made the Celtics look stupid. And he had performances that made you question reality. Flipping the switch like this is not easy, especially when you're the 8th seed. This run was magical, but not all stories have a happy ending, and Jimmy Butler's story ended in defeat. What he wanted most was a championship, and he couldn't get it. But despite that, this run will never be forgotten, and playoff Jimmy will be the first thing you remember. It's Game 5 of the 2020 NBA Finals, and Jimmy Butler is exhausted. But there's less than a minute remaining in this game, and the Heat are down by 1 point. If they don't win this game, they're eliminated. If they do, their season is still alive. This means everything is riding on Jimmy Butler's shoulders. This is a heavy burden, but for Jimmy Butler, there can never be too much pressure, because in the moments after this, he scored 4 points to close out the game. This performance by Jimmy Butler was unreal. He had an efficient 35-point triple-double with 5 steals, and this was in the NBA Finals. No other player in NBA history has done this. This game was special, and it's the game where playoff Jimmy was born. However, in Game 6, their hopes of winning a championship were dead on arrival. They lost this game by 13 points, and the largest lead of the game was 36. This was embarrassing, but this doesn't negate the run he just went on. Upsetting the number 1 seed and making it to the NBA Finals is nothing to scoff at. However, this empty feeling was eating away at Jimmy Butler. He wanted, no, he needed a championship. And in the next 2 seasons, he unfortunately failed to accomplish this goal. His first attempt in 2021 ended horribly. This year, he got swept in the first round by the eventual champions, the Milwaukee Bucks. His second attempt in 2022 ended in heartbreak. This year, he lost in the conference finals to the Celtics in 7 games. And the way he lost was heartbreaking, as he gambled on a 3-point shot that could have sent him to the finals. But 2023 was going to be different. It was going to be way different.
Jimmy freaking Butler puts it in!
The 2023 regular season for the Miami Heat was not the best. They finished as a 7th seed with a 44-38 record. They had a negative net rating, and they had the 5th worst offensive rating in the league. This was rough, and to enter the playoffs, they would have to earn their ticket in the play-in tournament. But they had 2 chances to break through. Their first chance was against the Atlanta Hawks. This didn't go too well. They lost by 11 points on their home floor, and Jimmy Butler didn't have the best performance. He had 21 points on horrible efficiency. However, in their next game, Jimmy Butler switched gears. He knew this was their last chance. He knew if they lost this game, his chance at winning a championship this season were gone. So he made sure they didn't. In this game, he scored 31 points to send the Chicago Bulls home, and 13 of those points came in the 4th quarter. This was the Jimmy Butler Miami needed, and with that performance, they've punched their ticket to the NBA playoffs. However, their opponent in the first round was the first-seeded Milwaukee Bucks. This opponent brings back memories. Some are good, some are bad, but Jimmy Butler was aiming to settle the score for what happened in 2021. This was the 3rd playoff matchup between these 2 teams in 4 seasons. These 2 teams hated each other, and whoever wins this series will break the tie. However, early in Game 1, Giannis went down with a back injury. This was bad for the Bucks, but for the Heat, this was an opportunity, and they took advantage of it, especially Jimmy Butler, as he had a 35-point triple-double with 3 steals. This smelled like the early makings of an upset. However, during this game, one of their own got hurt as well. It was Tyler Hero, and he broke his hand diving for a loose ball in the second quarter. This was unfortunate, and it only got worse, because in Game 2, the Heat lost without Giannis even stepping on the court. This was demoralizing. It made Game 1 feel like a fluke, but it wasn't. And in Game 3, they illustrated that fact perfectly, as Jimmy Butler dropped a hyper-efficient 30-point bomb. So far, Jimmy Butler has looked exceptional in this series, and the Heat have been dominant, because in the games they've won, they're beating the Bucks by an average of 17.5 points. This is insane. An 8th seed dominating a 1st seed like this is mostly unheard of, and Giannis was not going to let that happen, because in Game 4, he planned on returning. Was this going to be the turning point of the series? Or will the Heat kill the remaining hopes of the Milwaukee Bucks?
And Miami's offense has been on fire, and Butler has it right here with a 15-footer over Holiday. The drive by Jimmy Butler. Butler around Amos. Up and down. Up and down. It's loose. The lead. Jimmy Butler. 46 points for Jimmy Butler. Sets up on three. Good. Why not? Butler! Long shot!
Good! 56 points by any player is crazy, but when it's in the playoffs, that's historic. This performance by Jimmy Butler was the 4th highest scoring game in NBA playoff history. This was unreal. It made people look at him differently. It made people compare him to one of the all-time greats, and that all-time great was Michael Jordan. However, this series wasn't over just yet, and in Game 5, the Milwaukee Bucks were so close to winning. I mean, through 3 quarters, they led by 16 points, but a Butler's always there when you need them. In the 4th quarter, Jimmy Butler had 14 points to force the game to overtime, and this was the shot he made that tied the game. Honestly, this man might actually be Michael Jordan. The way he has been abusing and talking to Jrue Holiday all series is some stuff Mike would do. Anyway, during overtime, Jimmy Butler wasn't the best, but he didn't need to be, because they won, and his overall performance in this game was fantastic. He had 42 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and 1 block. Playoff Jimmy is now in full effect. Nearly averaging 38 points to take out the number 1 seed was something to behold. This felt like the beginning of a legendary tale, and their next opponent was eagerly waiting in the city that never sleeps. This matchup against the Knicks was unique. One team was spearheaded by a proven playoff performer leading an 8th seed, and the other was spearheaded by an up-and-coming young guard trying to prove himself. This matchup was going to be interesting, or so we thought. In Game 1, with about 5 minutes remaining in the 4th quarter, Jimmy Butler rolled his ankle. For about a minute, he was on the floor screaming in pain. It was a horrible sight to see for anyone who was rooting for him. But the Heat pulled through and won this game despite the injury. This was a great sign. They won a game on the road, and Jimmy Butler basically gave them nothing down the stretch. Unfortunately though, Jimmy Butler was ruled out for Game 2. This means they would have to repeat what they just did for a whole game, and they couldn't do it. Winning 2 consecutive road games without your star player is difficult. However, winning 1 was enough, because in the next 2 games, Jimmy Butler returned with the fire in his eyes, a fire that could not be extinguished.
Butler with 3 to shoot. Doubled and floats it off and in. Beautiful shot. Now in the switch, Robinson against Butler. Leaning in. Butler is fouled. Banks it in. Shot clock down to 1. Butler from the baseline. Counting. When the moment is big, Butler always meets it.
Butler playing through the ankle injury. Had 28 points, a couple of blocks. He drains it. Butler takes the baseline, scores. A dish. Butler, no look.
Jimmy Butler came back and immediately made an impact. In these 2 games, he averaged 28 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists, along with 3 combined steals and blocks. This play resulted in the Heat taking a commanding 3-1 series lead, but in Game 5, they didn't come with the same energy. Jalen Brunson destroyed them. He scored 38 points to keep his season alive, and in Game 6, he had an even better game, but it didn't matter. Jimmy Butler and the Heat won. It was a close game. However, it was playoff Jimmy that came out on top, and in the next round, he'd be facing off against a familiar opponent in a familiar spot. These are 2 storied franchises. These are 2 teams with history, and in this era, this would be their 3rd playoff matchup in 4 seasons. Every single matchup up to this point has been in the conference finals, and this series was no different. This matchup could be the grand finale of an epic trilogy, and it was, because to begin this series, Jimmy Butler went off. He led the Heat to victory in Game 1 with his dominant 2-way play, as he led both teams in points and steals. Oh, and to seal the game, he did this.
Shot clock at 3. Butler with Brogdon on him. It's a long 3. And good! Oh, Jimmy frickin' Butler puts it in!
This man was cold-blooded. In this moment, nothing could make him falter. And in Game 2, he played with that same killer instinct. But in the 4th quarter, Grant Williams decided to poke the bear. Nobody knows why he did this, but he did. And Jimmy Butler showed him that all actions have consequences.
Williams defends Butler. A bump, the grind, the gyration, and the 2 in the foul.
And they're having words. Look at this.
Nose to nose.
Yeah.
Eye to eye. Butler will take it into the defense of Grant Williams. Shot clock at 4. Here he accelerates and finds 2. Butler drives on Grant Williams, and a 15-footer will tie it at 100. Williams, the defensive assignment. Butler will work inside for the lead. He got it.
That's what he wants. Grant Williams on him.
This was real hate. This was real animosity. Jimmy Butler was baffled that a player like Grant Williams was chirping at him, and he responded accordingly. Because his first field goal in the 4th quarter was immediately after Grant Williams did what he did. And every single field goal that Jimmy Butler scored, Grant Williams was the primary defender. This was embarrassing. And during this stretch of play, the Heat went on a 24-9 run to close out the game. The Celtics have yet to win a game so far. The Heat now have a 2-0 series lead. However, don't count the Celtics out, because this series is far from over. Yeah, I was wrong. In Game 3, the Celtics were completely obliterated. I mean, the Heat just couldn't miss, and Jimmy Butler was trolling the Celtics as he hit the same pose that Al Horford did in Game 1. This Heat team was unreal. Going up 3-0 in this series means you're going to the NBA Finals. However, the Celtics weren't going to sit around and just let that happen, because in the next 2 games, the Celtics looked like the better team. They won both games pretty convincingly. But in Game 6, this wasn't the case. This game was an all-out war, and by the end of it, a miracle happened. That miracle was Derek White, because to force a Game 7, he scored a putback to beat the buzzer. This was insane. No team has ever come back from an 0-3 deficit. However, the Celtics might be the first to do it.
They had won 3 straight games to start this series. So it was a Game 7. They stand eye to eye with history, and they did not blink. The Heat are going to the NBA Finals. What a win on the road. 3rd win in this series.
All right, let's give this one out to the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals, the Larry Bird Trophy. And Alonzo?
Jimmy Butler.
The Heat dominated the Celtics for the entirety of the game, and they needed to do that if Jimmy Butler wanted to accomplish his goal. But getting to the finals is one thing, actually winning it is another. This is the largest stage in basketball. You either lose and hope to come back, or you win and become immortal. Jimmy Butler only had one option in mind, but in Game 1, reality showed him that what you hope for doesn't always happen. They got blown out. This was bad. However, in Game 2, Jimmy Butler defied reality and stole a game on the road. This was the first playoff game that the Nuggets dropped on their home floor, and the series was now tied at 1 apiece. You know, maybe this is it. What if Jimmy Butler finally reaches the mountaintop? The legend of playoff Jimmy would finally reach an ending that's worth it. Unfortunately, this wasn't the case, because after Game 2, the Miami Heat didn't win a single game. They were simply outclassed, and Jimmy Butler was disappointed. He didn't get the happy ending he was looking for. But you can't control the outcome. The only thing you can control is the process. And the legend of playoff Jimmy was the outcome that he gets to live with.